Tonight's story isn't about monsters. It's about something much worse. Something quiet. Something patient. Something that waits until you're alone. So turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. And listen carefully. Because sometimes, the scariest things don't make a sound. Welcome to Dark Whispers. I never believed in ghosts. Not because I was skeptical or scientific or anything like that. I just never experienced anything that made me question reality. To me, every strange noise had an explanation. Every shadow had a source. Until I rented out my basement. I live alone in a 2-story house just outside a small town. It's quiet here. Not peaceful countryside quiet, more like the kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat if you focus hard enough. The house is older, built sometime in the late 70s. The previous owner passed away, and his kids sold it cheap because they wanted nothing to do with it. I never asked why. The basement was finished, bedroom, small living space, bathroom. Separate entrance through the back. It felt perfect to rent out for some extra income. I listed it online. A week later, I got a message from a guy named Daniel. His profile picture was blank. No social media linked. Just a short message. Is the basement still available? I can move in immediately. I don't know why, but something about the wording felt stiff. Almost rehearsed. Still, I needed the money. He came by that evening. Daniel looked normal. Late 20s. Pale. Thin. Wore a grey hoodie even though it was warm outside. He didn't smile much, but he was polite. Spoke softly. Avoided eye contact. He didn't ask about rent. Didn't negotiate. Just said he'd take it. I should have seen that as a red flag. But I didn't. He moved in the next day. For the first week, everything was fine. Too fine. I barely heard him. No TV noise. No music. No footsteps. Sometimes I'd forget someone was even living under me. Then one night around 2:13 a.m., I woke up to a sound. A dull thud. Not loud. But distinct. Like something heavy hitting the floor. I sat up in bed, listening. Silence. Then, another thud. Directly beneath me. I waited, expecting movement. Maybe he dropped something. Maybe he fell. But nothing. The silence that followed felt wrong. Thick. Pressurized. Eventually I convinced myself it was nothing and went back to sleep. The next morning, I texted him. Hey, heard a noise last night. Everything okay? His response came almost immediately. I wasn't home. I stared at the message. Wasn't home? That wasn't possible. I never heard the basement door open. And the back gravel path is loud, it crunches under the slightest weight. I told myself maybe I just didn't wake up when he left. But something about the certainty in his reply unsettled me. The noises continued. Not every night. Just randomly. Always between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. Thuds. Slow dragging sounds. Once, what sounded like whispering. That was the first time I felt real fear. It was faint. Too faint to make out words. But it was rhythmic. Like someone speaking very softly, over and over. The next morning, I went downstairs. I knocked on his door. No answer. I knocked again. Nothing. I tried the handle. Locked. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. I told myself to stop being paranoid. Later that day, I saw him outside taking out trash. I asked him directly. Were you talking last night? He looked confused. I wasn't home. Same answer. Exact same tone. That's when I noticed something else. His trash bag was nearly empty. Like, completely empty. For someone who had been living there for over 2 weeks. No food wrappers. No packaging. Nothing. Just one thing. A thick stack of printed photographs. They spilled slightly from the torn edge of the bag when he lifted it. He quickly pulled the bag upright, hiding them. But I saw enough. They were pictures of my house. From outside. Different angles. Different times of day. Some taken at night. I felt my stomach drop. He noticed I saw. For the first time, he smiled. Not friendly. Not nervous. Just slow. That night I didn't sleep. At 2:13 a.m., right on schedule, the thud came. This time louder. Then footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Moving across the basement ceiling. I froze. The footsteps stopped. Directly beneath my bed. Then something new happened. A knock. 3 slow knocks. From beneath me. As if someone was knocking on the ceiling. I couldn't breathe. Another 3 knocks. I grabbed my phone and texted him immediately. Daniel. What are you doing? The message showed as delivered. But not read. Then, from downstairs. My phone buzzed. A text. From Daniel. I'm not home. I stared at the screen. My blood ran cold. Because the knock started again. This time louder. Desperate. And then I heard something I'll never forget. A voice. Not whispering. Clear. Right under my bed. Why are you in my house? I couldn't move. I couldn't think. The voice didn't sound like Daniel. It sounded older. Raspy. Angry. The knocking turned into pounding. Violent shaking. My bed frame rattled. I finally forced myself to run. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the front door barefoot. I didn't stop until I reached my car. I sat there shaking, staring at my house. The basement light was on. I could see movement through the small window. A silhouette pacing back and forth. Too tall to be Daniel. I called the police. When they arrived and searched the basement, they found it empty. No furniture. No clothes. No signs anyone had been living there. The lease agreement I signed with Daniel? Gone from my email. The listing conversation? Deleted. Like he never existed. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what they found behind the basement wall. There was a hidden crawl space. Old. Original to the house. Inside, they found belongings. Clothes from the 1970s. A mattress. And human remains. The previous homeowner. He hadn't died in a hospital like I was told. He had been reported missing. 40 years ago. The police asked if I'd ever seen anything unusual before renting the basement. I said no. But that wasn't true. Because 2 weeks before Daniel messaged me, I started sleepwalking. I'd wake up standing in the basement. Barefoot. Facing the wall where the crawl space was hidden. I always assumed I was just stressed from moving. Now I'm not so sure. I moved out the next day. But here's the thing. I still get texts sometimes. From unknown numbers. Always at 2:13 a.m. They only say one thing. I'm not home. And last night, I woke up standing at the foot of my bed. My feet covered in dust. The same kind of dust they found in that crawl space. I don't think Daniel was the tenant. I think he was the warning. And whatever lived behind that wall. It followed me home.